me okay? Excellent. I have made you guys the most beautiful slides in the world, and Chromecast let us all down. So I'm sorry about that, but I will make them public available if you want to look at them. But yeah, this is the Densha to Go panel. Densha to Go, if no one is aware, is the Japanese arcade train game from the States. I fell in love with this series about a year and a half ago, and I wanted to share this with all of us here in the West. So here we go. To start off with, I'm Luis. I'm a technical game designer for the past 10 years, and I've basically fallen in love since I was a kid with like arcade style games and like retro games. We call them retro games, they're just the games I grew up with. So I started a YouTube channel called Beyond the Pixel, which is dedicated to exploring a wide variety of game mechanics and talking with other developers and just making cool stuff like that, doing panels like this. So that's where we're coming from. So what is Densha to Go? Densha to Go is a series that was very popular in Japan and still continues to this day. The best way to describe it would say it's a Japanese arcade train simulation game. That's very long, so I will go with stylish train action. It was originally released in arcades, but got many console and handheld versions was released from PlayStation 1, Saturn, Dreamcast, WonderSwan, PS2, PSP, DSP. Literally so many different versions of this game came out, but only in Japan. We have not received anything ever that came over to where we are here in the West. In addition to all these games that are reported, many different controllers were made and still continue to be made, with the Wiki controller for the Switch having come out in 2020. So we're going to be exploring for the next 45 minutes this series and how you can also collect these series, since surprisingly for something that is so popular, it is relatively cheap to import compared to so many other games. So what essentially is Densha to Go? Densha to Go is a game where you are driving a train in Japan, and you just pick a route and you try to survive. It seems a little bit daunting, but it's actually quite straightforward. All you have to do is keep to speed limits, honk your horn respectfully, arrive on time, and stop in the correct position. Every mistake you make, however, costs you a life, and they are very, very, very strict. You can run out of life, and then it's game over. However, you can always continue from the stop that you left behind, making it very friendly for people who are just trying out the first time. Despite its exacting nature, it is very forgiving for its home console players. If you survive and you complete the route, you're rewarded with a music video about trains with really fantastic music, and I cannot stress how amazing the music in Densha to Go is. It is so fantastic they have had live performances for Densha to Go music. Some games also let you unlock more tracks, trains, or secret bonus levels if you perform well as well, as we started to get to more modern style game design with progression mechanics. So why is Densha to Go so popular? Why should you become a Densha to Go fan? First off, you don't even have to know Japanese. It helps, but the core mechanics of the game is an arcade. And so long as you understand a few key things and know how to navigate menus, you can play the game without any understanding of Japanese. I am nowhere near close to any level of competency in Japanese, and I have still managed to get through the game quite well. You also don't even have to know anything about trains, or even be interested in trains in the first place, because the core of this game is arcade-style gameplay. It's things that I imagine all of us here at Vancouver Retro Gaming Expo grew up playing and really loved. The challenge of skill and mastery and growing in our capabilities with the game and getting more familiar with it. And yet a lot of those arcade games can be kind of daunting to get through. Games like shmups or fighting games require hours and hours of dedicated time to understand all their nuances. Densha to Go meets you wherever you are in your arcade life. You can pick an easier route, you can continue whenever you want, you can progress at your own pace and take on the higher difficulty challenges. And it's not focused on reflexes, it's focused on knowledge. The more you learn about the train you're driving, the more you learn about the tracks you're driving, the better you're going to perform, and the more capability you have to take on the higher level tracks. So let's just jump in and do a demonstration, and then once you've fallen in love with it, I'll teach you how you can acquire it for yourself. So the game that I'll be showing off today, this is Densha to Go Final on the PS2. Most unstable microphone in the world. So on the PS2, it was released in 2004. Ironically, not the final Densha to Go game, but it is the last one on the PS2. So in this demo here, we're going to just be doing some driver's work. So you see, even some of the menus will have English on them, makes it quite easy to parse. And you can see there's a number of different lines. So you can take the Yamanote line, which is, you're going to see this line a lot. It's a pretty big line. We're going to do the troll line, because it has a quick little stop. And we're just going to go in normal mode. See, already quite friendly to like a Western gamer. A lot of English there you can go through. I hold my phone up and I translate it as well whenever I need to like figure out how to save my game and not lose all my progress. I'm playing this right now on an actual train controller that came for the PS2. It has an accelerator and a brake lever, and these are predominantly what you're going to be using. There's also a horn button here on the side. As I said before, your goal is to make it to your next stop. Stop at the right time and make sure you keep to the speed limits. So I'm just going to crank my brake down. You can see at the bottom left I have my speedometer and the distance to my next stop. Right now they're playing announcements closing the doors. Gotta wait for that light to turn on. Now I can accelerate. It plays licensed chimes and tracks from the real trains in Japan. Future games will actually remove this feature in some of the more modern ones. So for the PS2 version, it still has those. Careful with my acceleration. This version is very friendly. It tells you upcoming speed changes. Older games will not. So I'm keeping an eye on the right over there. Make sure I'm not going up to 70. Let's brake a little bit since I'm going too fast. You can see on the left side, I also have a small little challenge. It's just make sure I'm keeping at the right speed. There we go. So I can arrive right on time, because you can't even arrive early in the game. They want you to arrive on the second. Very, very punishing. And yet, super friendly and chill and relaxing. All right, oh God, oh no, never mind, we're good. I just read the meter wrong. So now we're 400 meters away. So we're gonna just start slowing down into the stop, go to maybe around 40. There we go. We have a speed limit of 55 coming up, so we're making sure to keep at that as well. We're just gonna cruise right on in and apply a little bit more braking. I might be coming in a little bit too hot. No, we're good. Looks like this train will be arriving on time. Fingers crossed. We're going to be a little late, you guys. But that's okay. Here we go. Start slowing down a little bit more. Here we go. Oh! And we're a bit over. It's hard doing it live. So I braked a little bit too much. You see there's a little passenger, he fell over. But we got within 300 centimeters. We were 7 minutes late. Not the best performance, but it's an arcade game. You're always going to practice, you're always going to improve. Maybe not do it live. But that's essentially how most of these games are. And these are the things you're going to be keeping track of. And the tracks, the routes will change, the goals will change. You can actually see I got a star ranking for that, so the stop was within like your metrics for awarding you a star. So there's a lot of things to shoot for this arcade style gameplay that you can familiarize yourself with the game and just keep improving over time. And that's just one route. There are so many different routes and trains that you can drive in this series. So let's take a little pause here and we'll talk a bit about them. Once it lets me pause, because it doesn't want me to pause unless the doors are closed. It's dangerous, apparently, to pause your game while the doors are open. There we go, I hear the doors closing. There we go. So hopefully, was that interesting? Everyone's on board? Yes, a lot of nods. I love to see it. So now you may be wondering, that looks amazing. I want to drive trains. I want to be the most professional train conductor person there ever was. How can I do this? Well, Japanese only. You are going to have to import. It's very unlikely that you'll find someone here selling it locally. You'll likely be importing it. The two best places that I found for like importing it at a reasonable price is eBay and Amazon Japan. There are pros and cons to both of these. On eBay, you're going to be shopping in Canadian dollars. It's easier for you to see exactly how much money you're going to be spending. You'll likely find a lot of bundles that come together with controllers and as well as a few games. However, when you do so, when you make these purchases, you have to be a little bit careful because they do not include import fees. So if you're buying something that's over the value of like around $80, you're probably going to be hit with import fees. If they're shipping with FedEx and DHL, that means they're also going to charge you a processing fee, which is about $10 to $15, $20 if you're unlucky. So there's plus or minuses there. Amazon Japan will sometimes have cheaper value per like tickets, so buying individual items, they may be cheaper if you buy from Amazon Japan. However, the shipping that you're going to be paying for Amazon Japan is likely going to be larger, around $30 upwards to $80 for shipping. However, this will also include your import fee. And you won't be charged from FedEx's or DHL's like ransom that they want to pay before giving your stuff. So that's an advantage of it. Since it's also Amazon Japan, you are going to need to copy over the hiragana and kanji into the search bar in order to look for these games. Luckily for you guys, I've made a spreadsheet that translates all this stuff and gives you like a little search that you can put directly into Amazon Japan if you want to go that route. Personally myself, when I acquired all this stuff, and I'm actually happy to say that as of yesterday, I now have a complete collection of all the PlayStation Densha the Go games. Finally, it took me about 1.5 years, but I finally found good prices on everything. And how I did that is I usually started on eBay first to get the smaller ticket items just to try it out, and then I moved over to Amazon Japan to buy everything in bulk that I know that I wanted. So where should you start collecting in your experience? Personally, I recommend the PS2 with some caveats. The PS2 is where you're going to have the most availability to the bulk of these games. While they're reported to many different consoles, the PlayStation 1 has pretty much every single base version of the game that you are going to find. It is, however, only compatible with Japanese region consoles. That said, there are many ways that you can play those without importing a Japanese console. You can use free make boot cards that are about $20 on Amazon. You can plug it in right into your PlayStation 2 memory slot, and that will, there's a process, it's very easy, I promise you, and you'll be able to play any game from any region on your PlayStation. So if you already have a PlayStation and you don't have free make boot, that's a $20 buy-in. That's a great way to just start playing these games. It also is the one that has the best controller compatibility. With 2 controllers, you can play every single one of the games that I'm gonna talk about now. Other alternatives, if you want to play it on PC, all these games that were released on PC are abandonware at this point, so you can just acquire them from My Abandonware for free. And Densha the Go Final specifically also has an English patch that people have made. So if you want to just try it out before you start going down the crazy rabbit hole that I did, that's a good way to just try it out, get the translation, get familiar with the game, and figure it out. It is a little bit finicky to install, but there are plenty of guides on Reddit for you to do so. Anyone have a Mister? For the people in the back, if you have a Mister, you can also play them using snack cables to use native controllers and play them that way through your Mister. That's an option. Emulation. You could also emulate these games. There are some graphical weirdness with it, and people have reported mixed things about compatibility with the controllers. So that path is a little fraught with peril, but you can definitely try it that way, especially if you want to try it. But if you want the best experience, I'm always going to vouch for original hardware, original controllers. Lastly, if you don't have old consoles, if you don't play retro games, which I don't think is this crowd, You can buy the latest game, which actually came out for PS4 and the Switch. Those are region free. Just import those games, 60 bucks, you're in it, you're playing it. There are also plug-and-play versions, which are kind of cool in theory because they just come with the controller itself, and you connect it through HDMI to TV, and you're playing the game. It's interesting, but it's very expensive. All right. This is where the slides would really come in handy. I have outlined every single game in here. I have put average prices for everything. It's beautiful. I'm gonna share it online with you guys so you can take a look at it. I really wish you could see it. But essentially, let's go through the PS1 Densha the Go games. There are 5 of them. The main ones that you're probably gonna be concerning yourselves with is Densha Go 1, 2, and Professional. These games are all relatively inexpensive. Densha the Go 1 and 2, you can get for between $15 to $20, should be included on eBay. You won't be paying an additional import fee because it's below the amount that you can import. That's a great way to start getting started if you have a PS2 and you just want to try it out on original hardware. My personal pick, if you were going to only buy one of the PS1 games, would be Densha the Go Professional. You have a wide variety of tracks. Don't get turned off by the professional moniker. It's not any easier or harder. All the tracks will have difficulty ratings on it, and it has the widest variety of the routes that you can take, going from rural Japan to more central areas in Tokyo, where you can drive the Yamanote line, which is very popular. And that one will run you about 25 to 40. Again, won't pay an import fee, and you'll get a complete inbox. And the manuals are great. I like manuals, but I'm sure we all do here as well. Mm-hmm. Controllers. So I'm gonna grab it and move it. This is the PS1 Densha the Go controller. This is the original one that was made, and it's also the cheapest one. So it just connects via the PS1 connection cable, whatever they call it. This is a 2-handle controller. They also have a 1-handle variant, which is a little bit more expensive. I personally really prefer the 2-handle one because I like having my braking separately. You get a nice little punch with it, which is really nice for the braking. You have your accelerator here, 2 buttons, no D-pad. You navigate the menus with this, which is a little awkward. You get used to it. You enter your name for your score with this, which is impossible. Really, that's the hardest part about the game, is trying to enter your initials in the 15 seconds they give you with using this, and it scrolls automatically, and it only stops if you're at the middle. It's bonkers. But you'll want to get this one here for the PS1 games. It'll work with all 5 of them, and most importantly with Densha the Go Professional. This one will run you by around $50 to $80, but you can usually find bundles with Densha the Go games, either 1 or 2. Sometimes if you're lucky, you'll have Professional. I saw one on eBay that had Professional, and it was going for about $90 to $120. So very good deal if you want to start by going that way. Start with PS1, start with where it started. You will also see there is a thing called the Mame-Con, which it looks like a normal PlayStation controller, but it has a lever on the side and a wheel to do the braking. It goes for $80 or more. I don't recommend it. You have to hold the accelerator down, and it feels really bad. It's also more expensive than all the other ones. Don't buy that one unless you're crazy. And if you're crazy, that's okay. We level types here. PS2 Densha the Go games. The PS2 games is where it gets a little bit more interesting, since while all the other ones were more focused on the same types of trains, driving them, and making your stops correctly, PS2 is where they got more experimental. You can get Densha the Go 3, which will actually work with your PS1 controller. It's one of the few PS2 games that will work with it. Unfortunately, compatibility gets dropped later on. That one will run by 30 to 50. It has really awful loading times. Not sure if that's a factor for some of you. It's still a really great game. Just keep in mind that it does have that little rough parts as they got used to the PS2 architecture. You also have Densha the Go Shinkansen, which is focused exclusively on bullet trains. That one there is where we start getting some different kinds of gameplay. It's focused on trains that will go up to 230 kilometers an hour, but usually you're driving from one stop to another. Some people find it a bit boring. I do too at some level. It's not really very challenging, but you get to drive bullet trains, and it comes with a special controller which can be a little bit fun. Ryojuhen, which is the one that came after in 2022, is focused exclusively on trams. I love to have photos. These games look amazing. And it came with a very special controller that is the most expensive on the market, so be aware if you're looking into that one, it's going to be kind of a big thing to jump into. You also have Professional 2, which again I also recommend, and the load times are great. That one will run you about $20 to $40 on Amazon Japan. On eBay, it goes around $50 to $80, so that's another one where you got to check both sides and see which one you want. Densha Go Final, again the last one on PS2, this is the one that's a little bit more modern design, a little bit more gamified. You can unlock routes and play through that way. Still the core base arcade experience, and it does have a lot of tracks. This one here is about 80 plus on eBay. On Amazon Japan, I found for around 35 to 70. It varies wildly. For the PS2 controllers, since I don't have images, I really wish I brought more. But essentially, you have this one here, which is a Type 2. This one will work with every single PS2 game. What will not work with PS1 games? It has D-pads. It has a little light up, that little light that lights up when the doors are closed, so you never really look at it because you're looking at the screen most of the time, but it's a nice little feature. It also has rumble on the stick, which feels weird, but it's interesting that it's there. This one here is where we start getting a little bit expensive. There are two versions, one that's white, which will go yellow eventually, as all these devices do, or there's this nice little purple one that you can get as well. These will go between 200 and 350, but you can get a little lucky. This one here I managed to snag for 120, so you kind of have to shop around and see what becomes available, but this is where it's going to start getting tricky. And again, I want to preface, you don't need a controller in order to have fun with these games. They work with PS2 and PS1 controllers. If you just want to get in and drive trains, that is a totally valid way. You don't have to go crazy like I did. An alternative, if you can't really find a good one of this, is a Shinkansen controller, which is like a blue controller that has 2 levels, and these are for driving the bullet trains. It has 11 speeds, and is the intended way for you to play the Shinkansen game. However, you only use the 5 speeds in the other games, so there'll be like a little bit like dead space when you're pulling on the lever. It is slightly cheaper. It goes for like around $170 to $200, and it's more readily available. I personally got that one first, and then when I found a deal on Type 2, I switched over that way. So you might want to go that route. This does lead us to the last controller that they made for the PlayStation, and this is the holy grail, quote unquote, which is the Ryojuhen controller. This one goes for around 350. It only really works with the Ryojuhen game, which is the one where you drive the trams, because they have a very specific system for braking, using gas braking. You have to build up pressure and then release it. So it has a nice little clicky knob, which is fantastic for the game. And also the only way the game will actually give you a score, because playing with anything else is trivial. But it does go for $350 or more. I've seen them go for like $500. There's one that's like $1,000. I would not recommend getting it unless you really want to play Ryojuhen. PS4 games. You have the Densha Hashido Yamanote line, which is the most recent release, very gamified, even has a campaign mode. It also has a lot of Japanese text, which is why I haven't dug too deep into it on account of my ignorance. It goes for $60. Well worth still getting. It looks beautiful. You can get it on Switch or PS4. If you have it on the Switch, you can also get this dedicated controller, which is a very nice step up in quality. I'll make sure that you guys get hands-on time with this as well. It's got a metal finish on the side. You can click a button, that's how you accelerate. It only works with the Switch. There is no officially supported PS4 controller. You can connect this to a Titan 2, which is like a controller adapter, and make it work with the PS4. Those go for like $200 nowadays because they're all sold out everywhere. So I'm waiting on that one, but that is an option. Of course, you also have the plug and play. There's two versions. One that's based on the Densha to Go Final. Goes for around $250 and $400. There's one on eBay right now that's like $230. You pay import fees on that, but it is well worth checking out if you don't have it in consoles, you want to jump into it. Again, I will always vouch for hardware, but if that's the only way you can play it, by all means, that is an option. The one that I don't recommend is the follow to that, Densha to Go Plug and Play 2, which is only focused on Shinkansen train. Again, I don't really find that gameplay to be the most compelling or the most difficult, and the amount of content that you're paying for it, for $170 to $250, you could just get a PS2 controller and buy a couple of games for it, and you'll have much more content to play through. So, to recap my recommendations, try before you buy. Play it on an emulator, play the abandonware versions, watch some YouTubers. The ones that I would really recommend are Dusty Railsim. He's more of a fun YouTuber. He's very passionate about these games. He's very focused on getting excited about getting good scores and stuff like that. He's a delight to watch. The other one is the Yamanote. He's a bit more serious. He wears driving conductor gloves. Driving conductor drugs? Driving conductor gloves when he's playing it, and you'll point out as you're playing the tracks, the other trains going by. He knows the names of everything. He knows the stops. He does a really lovely video on those as well. Then the tier 2 step, start wading to the shallows. I recommend just get those PS1 games, start playing the controllers, see if you like that experience. If you bond with it, then start stepping it up. Try Densha to Go 3 even. It's cheap, it works with your PS1 controller. Tier 3 is where I would say you start experimenting with the PS2 type stuff. You're going to be getting a bigger buy-in for that with a more pricey Type 2 controller, but you'll have a lot of compatibility, or you can decide to get the Shinkansen controller first if you find a good deal on it. Again, as with everything, shop around. Things are going to fluctuate. And if you end up really liking it like I did, you dig too deep. You end up in tier 4, and you start doing panels on Densha to Go. And you hunt down the Ryojuhen controller. I ended up actually getting a Ryojuhen controller, and it arrived to me with a broken brake stick. And I had to repair it. I managed to repair it, I managed to get it working, but it's a little bit stiff. I have it for sale downstairs, if you guys are interested. I'm selling it currently for what it is, as my partner. It's not $350, I think it's like $270 with Ryojuhen. If you want to jump in that way, that's an option. Just know that the brake lever is a little stiff, and I would not recommend it if you're going to play the other PS2 games. It sucks. Don't use it. It was not meant to be played with the other games. It should not work, even though it does. As a little bonus, I'll be putting up this video and interlaying the slides that were supposed to be up here on the Beyond the Pixel YouTube channel. It sucks because I can't actually show it to you, so just come talk to me and I can give you like a link. I have a spreadsheet, tiny little spreadsheet, that has every single game, their Japanese names, and the compatibility of all different controllers, along with a few little notes. If you want to start your buying experience, you can do that. There are 3 games that I don't have any information for because I didn't have them until yesterday, so I'll fill those out over time. We have a few minutes, so figured if you guys actually want to come up, my friend Shiv here can help you guys. You can continue playing Densha to Go or try out some of these controllers. I really recommend just getting hands-on with these because it's fun to flick levers and stuff, and it's really kinetic. So there'll be up here at the front. Not this one. This one you need to play with.
I think on the Switch you can like create a Japanese account and play it that way too.
Yes. You can purchase. The only game available that's Densha to Go related is Hashiro Yamanote-san. But there are other train sim games that will work with this. They're just not as good. They actually use real footage of the routes being driven in Japan, which is sort of cool, but the frame rate is really bad when you come into stops, and it's $60 for like a single route. It's not the best use of money, but I don't make good use of my money, so I bought almost all of them as well. Does anyone want to take Densha to go final for a spin?
I'll try it.
Yeah, come on.